Okay, after you find a couple of these answers, then it's going to get a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more. And so after the first several problems, it's going to be changing quadrants. And what we're going to do, let's say that we had an angle in the first quadrant. Well, it's a reference angle, so it goes to the x-axis, right? And so we go to the x-axis, we make a right triangle. This is an x, and this is a y. And if we, to get here, we went positive and positive direction, positive direction, the positive direction, and our hypotenuse is always positive. So if all of these are positive, and this is your opposite, this is your adjacent, and this is your hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent, adjacent over hypotenuse, all this other stuff, everything's going to be positive. So your sine, your cosine, and your tangent is going to be positive. So we're just going to put in all there. And we're talking about when things are positive, because the quadrants, the coordinate plane, makes a big plus sign. Okay, then if we ended up, then let's say maybe you had like 120 degrees that you are graphing. And if that's so, I didn't mean to do that, but I don't have an undo. Maybe I do. Undo. There we go. Okay, so it's right there. And then if we graph it and we go to the x-axis, because that's your reference angle, how did we get here? We went in the negative direction for the x and up for the y. So this would be negative and this would be positive. And this is your reference angle. And so, and your hypotenuse is always that. Well, what is negative is the adjacent. And if sine, cosine, and tangent, if these have your adjacent, then these are going to be negative, because it'd be a negative over a positive and a positive over a negative. And so the only thing that's going to be positive in the second quadrant is sine. Okay, so everything's positive in the first quadrant, no matter how big the angle is. The only thing that's positive in the second quadrant is sine. And then if we end up here in the third quadrant, reference angle, how did we get here? Well, this is negative because we went left. This is negative because we went down, and your hypotenuse is always positive. So sine, cosine, and tangent, opposite and adjacent, are negative. And if you have a negative over a negative, that doesn't look right. A negative over a negative, what is that? That is positive. And this would be a negative over a positive, which is negative. This would be a negative over a positive, which is negative. So the only thing positive in the third quadrant is tangent. And if I did the same thing here, the only thing that would be positive is cosine. And again, my teacher, let me back up. When we were learning this, everything that is positive, because I just wrote a big plus sign, all students take classes. Just go counterclockwise, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So everything's positive in the first quadrant, only sine's positive in the second quadrant, only tangent's positive in the third quadrant, and only cosine's tangent in the fourth quadrant, along with their reciprocals. So everything, sine, so cosecant would also be positive in the second quadrant, cotangent would be positive in the third quadrant, and secant would be positive in the fourth quadrant. It's going to make better sense whenever we actually get to those kind of questions, though. Okay, now on these, I'm actually not going to do most of these for you. Let's just talk about 0 degrees. If you're at 0 degrees, then you are on the x-axis. And let's just say that this is a unit circle. So this point is going to be 1, 0. And if you're on a unit circle, then remember your sine theta is your y and your cosine theta is your x. So, and then tangent theta is y over x. So if I'm doing sine of 0 degrees, because we didn't go anywhere, we didn't go up, we didn't go down, we didn't curve up or down, that would be your 0 because of 0. Your cosine of 0, it is not x, is 1. Because of 1. And your tangent is 0 over 1. And anytime 0 is on top, then 0 is your answer. So your tangent would be that. And I'll do the 90-degree one, and then I'll be done with that. I'm not going to do 180 or 270. How do you get here? You go over 0 and up 1. So that is your x and that is your y. So sine 90 is going to be 1 this time, and cosine 90 is going to be 0, and 1 over 0. Anytime 0 is on bottom, it is undefined. Okay. Then if we do the reciprocals, well, 0 is 0 over 1, so if I take the reciprocal of that, I get 1 over 0, which is undefined. 1 over 1 is 1, so if I flip that, I get 1 over 1, which is 1. Tangent is 0, so if I flip that, I get undefined because 0 would be on top. And you can kind of see what happens on those. Alright, so here we go. Secant 60. I've already given you this on the list. Oh, wait, before I forget, sorry. So radians. Don't forget on radians. 0 degrees is the same thing as 0 radians, or 2 pi radians, right? 90 degrees. 90 degrees is the same thing as pi over 2. 180 degrees is the same thing as pi radians. And I didn't have it on here, but 270 degrees is 3 pi over 2. Because it's 1.5. Alright, secant 60. On most of these at the beginning, you can just use the chart up at top. So secant 60 is 2. Cotangent 60 square root of 3 over 3. Pi over 4. If 90 degrees is the same thing as pi over 2, half of 90 is 45, and half of a half is a fourth. So that would be pi over 4. Just one thing that, you know, you could kind of stick in the back of your mind. So secant 45 is pi over square root of 2 over square root of 2. Pi over 3 is the same thing as 60, and tangent 60 is square root of 3. Now on these,